Welcome back to another edition of the Gabagools Podcast, episode 21. Back with the Cuzzo, Dan. Obviously, I'm your host, Jeff, as always. I'll just keep rambling until I give it to Dan to give us the weather.
Yeah, 21 episodes. Wow. That's one of my things I like to bring up too. 21 episodes. I got to say, I'm not a virgin of the sport anymore. The world of podcasting. Once you do 20 or so, I'd say I'm pretty close to veteran status now. So we're getting up there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I was going to say you can also get you could actually our podcast can get into a bar now, so there's that.
there is
Um,
that. That's a good
you
call.
know,
That's a good call.
still can't rent a car for a podcast, but I feel
Isn't
like
that a
they're going
shame?
to be able to go to a bar is a good setup for us.
Yeah, you'd think you'd be able to rent a car before you can go to a bar, but who the hell am I?
Yeah, same with voting too.
As for the weather on this beautiful Sunday that we both have off, not bad out there. It's a little hot, a little bit of a hot one out there today. I don't know if it's going to be 80 or 85, whatever it is, but we already took the dog for a quick one. She two poops on the walk. That's her normal. That's what she does. I told you
Danny Two.
I've picked up four before. That's like her cap. And when you get there, it's like, all right, come on now, enough's enough. But two today was a solid quick one. Got her out there, got her a quick sweat, as we like to say, and
Yeah,
then got back, had a quick little snacky snack, and here we go.
awesome. Love that, and I love the fact that you mentioned in snacks because what I want to lead off our podcast with, besides the weather, is let's just go back and forth with our um, overall top four, Mount Rushmore, whatever we want to call it. We'll come up with a name for it later. Of fast food items. So I'll let you go first. You can lead us off. You
All
got to
right,
pick.
well, you know what? I've got okay, so just before that, there was right before we start this, there was a place that just closed right around the corner from my house called Gabagools Burritos. Okay.
Ooh,
Now this was, I think they've got some locations in like the Midwest, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, a couple of those. And I think the closest one to me now is in Crestwood. So it's about a 40-minute drive or whatever to get a burrito. Um, it was a good place though. We had it for like a year or two, just closed. So I had like a free burrito coming to me. So Bubba Coos, if you're listening to me, the whole Cicero thing or whatever, it's like 40 minutes. Let's reopen
that's
this one,
tough.
or just do something a little bit closer to me. I'd like to go get the free burrito. It was good stuff. Very similar to Chipotle, who's on my list, but we'll get there a little bit later. Um, First thing. Now, this is just, I don't really have any sort of list here. I just sort of, brain was just kind of rolling this morning. So, uh,
Yep.
Five Guys fries. This
Five Guys
is,
fries. That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm surprised you put it number one, but that is a good one. Now, do you go Cajun or do you go regular?
oh, Cajun. Cajun. I
Oh yeah,
like the regular too, but I mean, and again, you know what? These might not all be perfectly in order because I was
that's
just
fine.
rambling, but the Five Guys fries was like the first thing that came to mind. I was like, man, whenever you go there, you don't even have to get the burger, and the burgers are great. I mean, let's be honest too,
Right.
Five Guys, I mean, yeah, unless you're, really bringing in some coin, don't go there if you have a family of four because you'll
Oh
be,
no.
it's an arm and a leg. But their
Or if you have a
fries,
peanut allergy.
yeah, maybe not that either. But the fries are kick ass, man. Cajun fries, like you said.
Absolutely, good pick. Good one. So my next one is the cheesy gordita crunch from Taco Bell. Have to go with the all-time goat menu from Taco Bell. Can't go wrong with it. The only thing that sucks about it now is the fact that it's like 5.67 per. Now it used to be like $3. So not really too happy with Taco Bell there, jumping our prices, but yeah, cheesy gordita crunch, and then on my turn, going with Panda Express orange chicken.
Oh, okay, interesting, interesting. I see. I've got to sort a few things out here because I've got a couple drinks and shakes as well on here. But as far as all right, let's see here. I went with the Five Guys. You went with that. I'm gonna throw it to. Now this is an off the wall one a little bit, but I think I brought it up before. Arby's chicken salad
Ooh,
sandwich. Now this sandwich. I don't even think they brought it back this year. Now, this probably doesn't make me look good bringing it up here, especially this high. Let me tell you something. It is not what you think. It's good. It's really good. They've got it on this good, like, multi-grain bread. I know I sound like I'm an old man now, but I'm telling you, the bread it's on, the chicken salad itself, really good. They've got some big grapes in there when you get that big. I'll tell you, you're shaking your head a lot at me. I'm telling you, if you like chicken salad, and I know everyone can be a little iffy on chicken salad. I don't like every chicken salad. This one though, and Whole Foods chicken salad, by the way, just on a side note, man, they've got a good one. Just a quick plug. So I'm going to throw that on there. And for my turn, now we're going to do a quick turn here. This is because I got to get this one in there. We're going to go, if you want a chicken sandwich, and we're talking fast food, I couldn't narrow it down to one, so I got to throw two at you. I got the Popeyes and, of course, the OG Chick-fil-A. The Popeyes one, though, might take the cake. It is so freaking good.
Yeah. Popeyes chicken sandwich. I think it's got, I don't know. I haven't had it in a while. The last time I had it was a little rubbery. But yeah, that's a good one. No, I'm a big fan. The spicy one, of course, because I like a little heat with my food. Yeah, good picks on that one. Can't go wrong with a nice chicken sandwich. Staying on the chicken, menu, we have to throw some nugs.
Of course,
got to go with Wendy's spicy nugs.
I'm glad you went there.
And you do it with some barbecue because their barbecue sauce. They did have that ghost pepper ranch sauce too. That was really good. I think they got rid of it, but do it a little bit with their like tangy barbecue. Amazing. Can't go wrong with that. And then my last pick, got to go with a Portillo's beef sandwich.
Interesting. Tillo's is kind of one of those sleepers. You can almost forget about Tillo's because you got a lot of other stuff. Tillo's has been around, but man, that's a good pick.
It was tough. It was tough to kind of like choose in between. We'll talk about my honorable mentions after, but yeah, got to go with Portillo's just because of the name. You can't go wrong with it when you get it. You obviously get it dipped. There's some hot giardiniera on there. Yesterday we did do the Buena beef sandwich, so that was good too. Can't go wrong with any type of beef.
Now I believe they pronounce that bona, and my pops calls it boner beef, but that's
I say Buena. I don't know.
You could say Buena. I'm not gonna skewer you for that.
I don't know what it actually. Yeah, I don't know what the enunciation of it now. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, you go ahead and look that up. I'm gonna take another sip of my wine here. Mom was saying she wanted to open up some wine this morning, so I said, well, pour me a glass before the pod. So,
hell yeah! What kind of wine?
It's that new one from Bon Jovi or his kid or whatever. It's a Hampton Water. That's what it's called. It's not bad. It's like I'm more of a red guy, but it's a white or whatever. But it's good.
Question: before you do your last pick, now do you do your red wine without ice? Right? You don't put any ice or okay. Just making sure. I've seen people do like red wine with ice, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I have seen that too, and I wonder if those people have a screw loose or whatever. But
we'll just leave it at that. They do so.
Definitely a screw loose.
Yeah.
My last one is going to be I got to do a throwback for you and I got to do if I'm getting a sandwich, I got to do a J Mike's sandwich. And for me, this was my favorite. I went with the number 8, the club sub. Comes with the mayo and bacon.
Okay. Funny you mention it. Jersey Mike's was on my list. I had the number 9 on there though.
The Club Supreme. Okay, so
yes.
one of my friends, Kelsey, she's a Club Supreme fanatic. So after she had her last kid, it's like a tradition. Drew has kid pops out. Drew, she's like, Drew, get me my Club Supreme. So runs over, gets it the way she likes it, and then she feasts.
Yeah, because like when you're pregnant, you can't have any deli meat. I think it's the bacteria or something that could
something like that.
something whatever. No, Club Supreme, you have the Swiss, you got your roast beef hand carved right there, and then your turkey and some bacon. I always added chipotle mayo instead of regular mayo too.
Ah, one of those, huh?
Yes, and then for the people who've never had a number 8 from Jersey Mike's or Club Sub, it's just your typical turkey and ham sandwich with some bacon and mayo. So
Very good, very good. And I mean, honestly, the way I did it, I don't know about you, I shaved it real thin. I was one of those who liked it nice and thin. And some people like it a little bit thicker. You could, to each their own. But for
yeah,
me, when I was making it, I sliced it nice and thin. You know what I mean? A little mayo, bacon, light mayo. I don't go too crazy on the mayo. Did Mike's
I don't
way.
even like mayo to be honest.
Not a huge mayo guy, but again, when we're talking a good chicken salad, where it's not too mayo-y, oh man, oh
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
But a
All
couple
right.
of these honorable mentions
Yes.
here.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
let you hit me with your honorable mentions.
oh
Let's
man,
go for it.
because this one is a big one. When I'm working, you mentioned Taco Bell. They've got, and this is a drink, a mango brisk. I don't know if you've ever had the mango fiesta, mango brisk.
Mm-mm.
This, oh mama. Okay, let me go ahead and put you on because this drink, if I'm in the area and it's a hot day, or if it's just one of those days where I'm like, you know what, we're gonna start the F bomb today. I want a fucking mango brisk, right? So that's sometimes I'm just like, man, I need it. Stop
Yeah.
there, get myself an extra large mango brisk, and if it's early enough in the morning, they do have their breakfast. So sometimes I'll get myself a breakfast
Yes.
burrito or two. I like the Taco Bell breakfast with an extra
It's
large mango.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too is the Taco Bell breakfast is super underrated. I'm kind of mad. Like if I had more opportunities, I would have thrown it on my list just to, like across the board. But it's also super cheap. Have you
Yeah.
noticed like for a burrito, like a breakfast burrito, it's like $1.97 or something like that, something crazy. I'm like, oh my god. And then you go for their like lunch menu, and it's like $6 for a little beefy cheese burrito. It's like 90% mayo and or sour cream.
Yeah, no, the breakfast though, I try to tell people, because I'm a breakfast
It's
guy.
yeah,
A good breakfast burrito or two goes a long way. You get some of the hot sauces, you get that extra large mango brisk, and you're good.
absolutely. Speaking of breakfast, honorable mention, got to go with the McGriddle from McDonald's.
Mm.
Syrupy little pancake between your, bacon and eggs. So got that on there. You got to go with your Cane's chicken and sauce too.
Cane's is good stuff, man. Yeah, I mean they
And,
do one thing, but it's good.
yeah, and do you know what? I like that though. You have one thing on your menu, or two things because they have the chicken sandwich, but you do it well. And then their lemonade's really good too. Um, Go ahead.
Well, even their chicken sandwich is just the tenders, right? And they don't do like an actual breast. So it's
I
basically you just
Was it because you know what, Ellie got it the other day, and I don't remember if she had it with if it was like a full piece of chicken or not.
from what I know, I think it's just the tenders. Now, if they do have a big piece, then
I think
that's
they have a big piece.
minus one for me then. But they the sauce is great, and I don't know if you're a sweet tea guy when you're eating chicken,
Yeah,
but oh man, the Southern people they did it right with a good sweet tea and some chicken with a good sauce. Oh, you know what? I gotta fuck me. That's good stuff.
yep. And then another one we missed. You mentioned fries earlier, but Arby's curly fries.
Mm,
Can't go wrong with that. And then last but not least, if you're from Chicago or from the Chicagoland area, you know this place, Gene and Jude's. Got to get a hot
mm.
dog.
You know what? So you mentioned fast food. I guess I should have had Gene and Jude's on there in my mind. That's a great. That might be one of the best. That might even be the best pick when you're in the mood for a Gene and Jude's.
Yeah, it's worth the drive, especially like I mean, you're a little bit closer. I think you might be closer than I am to it. But like sometimes I'll just go, just take the 45-minute car ride, go get a hot dog, eat it out there. Because you can't take it back. 10
No,
minutes in the car is too much, and 45 minutes each way. But definitely worth it when it comes to it.
and the best part about that is if you eat it in your car is going to smell like Gene and Jude's for like 2 weeks after.
Yeah, it's kind of like an air freshener.
And my last one, I've got to throw this on there. We didn't mention any shakes. We were just at
Yes.
Potbelly recently. The Potbelly
Yeah,
shakes. Oh, dude, man.
they
Oh my
are
God.
really good. Yeah.
when I worked at Mod Pizza a couple years ago, we had
Yeah.
a Chipotle there, and then there was a Five Guys, and then they had a Potbelly. So it was just like a mega morphous of all the food, you know. And we would go. I mean, we'd have people go there literally every day or every other day, and go over to Potbelly and say, "Hey, man, like we just had a rush. I'm dying. I need one of your hand spun, 100% ice cream, whatever, however the hell they do it." I mean, those
Yeah.
shakes are I mean, they're nasty. They're fuck me good.
Yeah.
3.
Add it to the list. Yep. Yeah.
When we
Good
start
stuff.
talking about food, the F bombs come out, the expletives come out. You should know that by now.
Yeah, we actually brought that up yesterday because we have obviously at the party we had the catering for Bona or Buena, whatever we want to call it, and we were talking about how you were talking about the raviolis, and you were like, "These are fucking amazing." So we had to do a little ode to Dan on that one.
They are though. I mean, those
It was
those.
delicious.
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Those fucking ravs are great, man.
Just how like genuine excited you were about it too, because you were eating the lemon chicken and you had a little bit of the ravioli. You're like, "This is fucking great," and that was sober too. That was the best part about this whole thing. This wasn't under a cup influence. A couple that he literally got there, had one drink with me, and ate his food, and it was a or a sight to be seen.
It was good shit.
Yeah. All right. So, yep, obviously that's going to be something we do on every podcast, at least until football season officially starts. Just to fill some time, give our opinions on some things. Mentioning football, though, for those who play fantasy, you listened to the last episode. That one's for you. This one also will be for you. We're going to talk some QBs. We're going to talk the sleepers, breakouts, a deep sleeper, and busts. Now, this is just our opinion. This isn't, anything. This might be just who we like, who we don't like. And I'll preference some of my information too. But I'll kick us off unless you have anything to say.
No, I prefer you to kick this one off because I know you've got your ideas on some of these guys. So,
yep. So I'm going to start us off with our sleeper. This is going to be a guy who drafted number 1. His team traded for like a lot of picks for him. One of them ended up being Caleb Williams. So I'm talking about Bryce Young from Carolina. I think what Carolina did with this new regime at the front office, they made sure that they brought in people for passing targets, running targets, everywhere across the board. They brought in players to help them. Deontay Johnson being one of them. They revamped the line. They added Robert Hunt, who was in Buffalo. Dame Lewis. They brought in another tackle, and then they drafted Xavier Legette in the late rounds of the first. Another big target. He played at South Carolina. I'm not calling him USC. I don't know why people do that. Just because they have the same initials, apparently.
He's got the greatest voice in the league.
He does. If you haven't heard it, please go look him up on YouTube and just listen to any interviews. They actually had him mic'd up on the football field. And you can tell that guy just loves football too. So
I don't know anything he's saying either, which is the best part.
Yeah. But yeah, Bryce Young, I think, after the flop of a rookie year he had, I think we're going to see something new. I actually didn't mention it on my list, though, but they brought in Jonathan Brooks, too, out of Texas. They drafted him pretty high. He's going to be another option. He's coming off his ACL injury, but when he's getting going, that's the guy. And I really think it's going to be a difference maker. So I expect Bryce Young to kind of fall into the 15 to 18 quarterback range this year, and has a floor maybe of or a ceiling maybe of a top 12 this year. And that's like if everything goes right.
Okay. So for me, as far as sleepers go, I went with I got 2 main names on here. I don't know how much you want to consider them sleepers, but I've got Drake May and Jaden Daniels on here, and mainly because you say sleeper. I don't think either team is set up that well for these guys to succeed in year one. I think Daniels might have more weapons on offense than May does, but I think either of them could surprise people and have a halfway decent year. I don't think either of them is going to be, a top 10 this year, but I think, either of them, more Daniels than May, could end up surprising some people and having a better year than than you'd think. I don't think New England. I mean, I'd have to look at their record last year. I know they weren't great, but they're a team that could surprise people. I mean, I know they don't have Belichick anymore, so that's going to be a little different how this organization goes on without him. But May was highly touted. So he's going to a solid organization. We'll see how they do. And then Daniels in Washington seems to mess up a lot of things. So we'll see how this kid does. He's coming off of, obviously, I think he won the Heisman this last year. So
Yeah,
um,
1,000 rushing yards.
he looks like a great dual threat, and he looks like, I mean, he's got some people to throw to over there. I'm trying to think. I know they still have
Scary Terry.
Scary
Scary Terry's
Terry,
still there. Johan
Dotson.
Dotson's still there.
Dotson's solid. Did they
He
get
should
rid
be
of Logan
decent.
Thomas?
They got rid of Logan Thomas. They brought in Zach Ertz, and they drafted Ben Sinnott or Sanu, whatever you want to call him, out of Kansas State. So they have a rookie tight end, and then obviously they brought in Austin Eckler, which is never a bad thing either.
That's right. They've got Eckler too. Yeah. So I mean, Daniels, I think, is definitely probably more set up to succeed, maybe a little more than May. But I know May's got that Stevenson, I think, right? Ramondre
Yeah,
Stevenson or whatever.
yeah, and I also do think Daniels is obviously going to be set up for success year one. I think
Yeah.
he'll start right away. Drake May would be a sleeper, just because I wouldn't expect anyone to really expect him to start because they brought in Jacoby Brissett for a
Mm.
reason. I could see Drake May, unless he lights preseason on fire, that he sits maybe at least half the year until he's ready. Um, but yeah, I mean both are good sleepers there. And then moving into our breakouts. This one was tough because there's so many guys you could pick from that really take that next step forward. But I'm picking Will Levis. That's another player that I think that they brought in a whole new head coach. We have no more defensive minded coach. So you add in that factor with an offensive scheme. You bring in Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard, and then they added to the line, and they also drafted J.C. Latham with a 7th overall pick. So they're going to protect him. And they just gave him a bunch of targets outside of DeAndre Hopkins. So when you're putting 2 and 2 together, I expect him to also take that leap this year. He was a rookie last year, kind of got thrown into the mix. Tannehill was terrible. The team was kind of just running with Derrick Henry. This team is also going to be a little bit different. I don't think they're just going to be the run type of team that they were.
Okay, so as far as breakout, I have Will Levis, but I have him on one of my other tiers. But I like the Levis pick a lot because I thought the same thing with him. They brought in a lot of people, and last year he had some games that I think surprised some people. So I like the Levis pick. As far as breakout goes, I've got 2 people on here, and you can maybe think of breakout as maybe I don't know. I have Caleb and Trevor Lawrence on my breakout. The reason is obviously Caleb's got a lot of hype around him. He's got some of the best offensive weapons around him, and I think that people are expecting him to be pretty good. So I've got him on 2 lists. I'll reveal the other list that I've got him on later when we get there. But I've got him as the breakout, and I've got Trevor Lawrence on there because I think as of now he's definitely not exceeded expectations. I think he's definitely been below it. We mentioned it a couple podcasts ago that he had like almost the same stats up until this point. I think it's like Daniel Jones. So you don't really want to be, no offense to Daniel Jones, he just got the bag, but you don't really want to be compared to him as far as what you've done in the NFL performance-wise. So, he's still got people around him. They don't have Ridley anymore, but they don't have Zay Jones anymore either, but they still have ETN, who's a top 5 running back, who's going to catch you some passes. You still have Christian Kirk. I think they still have Evan Ingram. And I know they drafted what's his name, Brian Thomas.
Yep.
So they've got some people over there, depending on how good Thomas is this year. But to me, I mean, he's been in the league a few years. This is a big year for him. He needs to show people. He just got paid too. I think this is going to be the year for him to say, okay, I am the guy. I'm not just a guy who's good enough to win you games and maybe get you to the playoffs. He needs to show, okay, I'm worth the $60 million or whatever you're paying him a year now. I think this is a big year for him. And like I said, with Caleb, he's set up to succeed more than most quarterbacks are their first year. So I think you could see potentially, I don't know how many games the Bears are going to win, but I think you could see him have a really solid year.
Absolutely, with the surrounding cast, like you said, Keenan Allen brought in. They basically revamped that whole offense. Brought in Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze. They brought in DeAndre Swift. I think they added in a center too. So, the sky's the limit for Caleb Williams to skyrocket and be that top 12 quarterback. I would love to see it be higher, just because he came from USC. Trevor Lawrence, he's also on one of my lists. At least it was in my head. It was one of my lists. But I actually think he could bust out this year, and not bust out in a good way. I think he could be like one of those players that he's good enough to be decent for fantasy, but he's not that guy that could be the top 5 that everybody expected him to be. But, I do think that he does take that step forward. I think Calvin Ridley is a good wide receiver, but Brian Thomas kind of fits that mold a little bit better in that offense. I think he'll actually help him succeed. One guy I did add to my list too, just recently was Anthony Richardson. I think
Okay.
he's getting a ton of hype.
It's a good pick.
Dynasty, platform, just because of what he was doing when he was the 3 games that he played before he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
He tore it up. And they were talking about per snaps. It was very comparable to Josh Allen, which is great company to be in. Right. And if he has that type of season year long, we're talking about the QB1 of the year, which
we're talking about MVP.
Yeah, he could be the MVP. That means the Colts are making the playoffs at that point if he does that.
And the bigger thing for me was, he was doing this last year, and who were his offensive weapons? He's got Michael Pittman. But he didn't have.
That was it, yeah.
And he didn't have my guy Jonathan Taylor. I think didn't he start the year on IR or the contract or whatever?
He was out for the first 4 games, I believe.
So you didn't have one of the top running backs in the league, and Josh Downs. I mean, he hasn't really cemented himself yet. So you've got he had Pittman pretty much, and he was like you said, that was a good team before he got hurt. So. That's actually a great pick. I think if he can stay healthy, that's going to be his thing. He showed that last year in only a couple games. If you can just not take some of those hits when you're going to scramble and stay healthy, you could easily be one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Absolutely. And that's, and like I said, that's top 5. We're talking about he could make that jump forward and win a lot of people fantasy championships this year because, he got hurt last year and it was, the trajectory of those teams that I looked at were all on the upward swing. So, Anthony Richardson's one of them that I also think that will break out. My deep sleeper. So we can laugh about this one because I did change it, but as of right now, it's not going to be JJ McCarthy. It's going to be the guy who's got the QB1 snaps as of training camp right now. We're going with the one, the only Broadway Sam Darnold. And this is strictly on the fact that he has never had a coach. And he's never had a supporting cast like he has now. His coach, Adam Gase. Bears fans remember him. Miami fans remember him. He was never a good coach. Why the Jets thought that was their guy was beyond me. Now, when you go to Sam Darnold, he got drafted with all these high expectations. I think he was a top 5 pick, I want to say. I don't remember the exact. I know it was top 10. He landed in a shitty situation. I want to say he had Chris Ivory as his running back, and Jericho Cotchery maybe was his wide receiver. So he didn't have a whole lot of options to throw to. I think it was Jamison Crowder maybe. Either way, he had nobody with the Jets. Yeah. He really didn't have anybody with the Panthers. He was correct. Decent for fantasy. If you ever looked at his games, he did put up a couple 30, 40-point games. Superflex, he's worth a shot. You might be able to get him for a second. And a starting QB for a second is in a good company, I think. He's got Jettas, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison's still there. TJ Hawkinson will come back probably mid to late season. That's your tight end. And then he's got Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler to hand the ball off to or, hit him on the slant. And it doesn't help it doesn't hurt him either that he's actually got Kevin O'Connell as a coach too. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a very interesting one because I think people, when you're talking about this deep sleeper, you'd probably look at multiple. You
Yeah,
look at either Darnold or McCarthy in that situation as a deep sleeper
same thing.
because you don't really know who's going to be the starter. But like you said, as of right now, Darnold, I mean, he probably should be getting the majority of the reps as of right
Yeah,
now. I don't think McCarthy was looked at as oh, he's going to come in and start right away. Darnold's
I
been in
hope
the league a
not.
couple years and Darnold has had some good games. I'll, I'll,
Yeah,
I'll go on record and say that draft I think was the Mayfield draft. Josh Rosen, Darnold was my favorite quarterback coming out of that draft. I think Josh
yeah.
Allen was in that draft too, and obviously Allen's been the guy. But um,
I think
Dar-
Lamar was part of that draft too.
you might be right. So it's been those two who have been leaps and bounds better. But um, to your point, though, Darnold's probably in his best situation, especially with people to throw to. When you've got the best receiver in the league, I'm ready to crown Jefferson. He's the guy. Um, and Jordan Addison, man, I wanted to get him last year in our rookie draft. I wanted him so bad.
Yeah,
Uh, couldn't get him, unfortunately, but I mean, he's a stud. And then, like you said, they've got Aaron Jones too. This, if he gets the starting nod, the only problem for him is he is in such a tough division now. 2, 3 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case. With Detroit, just kind of getting good, they were still really bad, and the Bears being how we are every year. But now you've got Detroit, who's the pride of the division, if you will, right now. Green Bay came on the second half of last season. Jordan Love looked really good, so they're going to be pretty solid. And now you kind of have Minnesota and the Bears in similar situations with rookie quarterbacks who both may or may not start week one. McCarthy might not. And Darnold in a situation where, if he starts, he's got weapons around him, but what are you going to get from him? Because you haven't seen him put up week to week, really good numbers. But we'll see. I like the pick from Darnold. As far as my deep sleeper, I had I had JJ on there. I also had my other two guys are Will Levis because
hmm
I was like, okay, we'll see what we get from him. He didn't start last year. He came on, had some games, they added pieces, but I don't know if anyone's that high on Levis yet either. So that's why I kind of had him more as a deep sleeper. Okay, maybe you. And then I also had your buddy, who's going to be kind of my buddy, Bo Nix. We'll see. We'll see how he does this year, right? He's supposed to
yeah,
be, Denver. I don't think most people have. For me, deep sleeper is people with, the
yep,
expectations not being that high. I don't think you
yep.
can have the expectations that high on him yet. So we'll see how he does over there. I don't know um, his weapons over there with Denver. I don't think the Broncos' weapons are that good.
No,
But
not
he's
really.
got Sean Payton over there. He's supposed to be this big time head coach. So we'll see. He didn't want Russell over there. Now he's got Bo Nix. So we'll see
Yeah,
how he does.
good pick. Good pick for a deep sleeper. I agree with you. Last but not least, busts. So when I'm talking about busts for fantasy, I'm not talking about a guy that's just going to completely flop. Even two guys on my list, I'll give some explanation behind them. But a bust can be just somebody who is drafted extremely high, and not even the NFL draft, but just overall drafted high in a fantasy draft and doesn't put up the QB1 numbers that you're drafting them at that draft capital. So when you look at busts, I look at that. So mine is a mixture of Daniel Jones and Derek Carr. Um, those guys I just don't think are good quarterbacks. But if I had to really pick a bust, I think it's Derek Carr.
Oh,
I think this is the last season that we're going to see him. I think his look after looking at how many times he got hit last year, he could barely throw the ball. I feel bad for like Chris Olave because he could be an amazing wide
he's a
receiver
stud.
too. So good. Problem is he's got Derek Carr, who was like a shell of himself last year, could barely throw. That being said, I also think if they brought in Spencer Rattler, if he looks anything like he did in college, he might even push for that job at some point this year. If he has a strong preseason, becomes the backup QB in New Orleans, no reason he can't be the starter come 2025. So Derek Carr is my bust. But if I had to pick like a QB out of the top 10, where people draft, I'm picking Trevor Lawrence. I have just seen a lot of underwhelming from him, but we've already touched on him a little bit. But passing it over to you.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned Daniel Jones because I had him on my list. I mean, I don't know why the Giants. I thought they were going quarterback in this draft. They decided to go with Malik Neighbors because you paid Jones. You can say what you want, but you know what? We've seen what Daniel Jones can do. He had one decent year. It was an above average year. It was a solid year. I'll give him that. What 2 3 years ago, but
For
you know,
fantasy, yeah, he won. He won a couple of people championships. I swear across like 5 leagues that I was in, I felt like I saw more Daniel Jones in the championship than Patrick Mahomes, which is insane to me.
so I had him on the list. I've also got Caleb on the list because you know what? He's got a ton of hype around him, and there is a chance with the division we're in and him being a rookie quarterback, being thrust into the starting job week one. That's what the Bears do, and it doesn't usually work. So we'll see. Right? We'll see how that goes. Right? I mean, the book is still out on him. He hasn't played a game yet. He's a lot of hype around him. Supposed to be good. He was the number one guy. Okay, so now we got to see what you look like in real time. And I have another guy who has been in the league a few years, who played like 5 snaps last year, and who's on your favorite team, and Aaron Rodgers. I I'm a Bears fan, and I've always been an Aaron Rodgers fan. But what are you going to get from the guy this year? Coming off of a tough injury, he's like, what, 38, 39, 40 years old. You're going to have to somehow find a way to protect him, and you couldn't do it last year for all of 5 snaps, or even less than that. So my worry is how mobile is he really going to be? I already saw something come out like a few weeks ago, and someone was complaining about him not moving that well. I don't know what the story was on that. It might not have anything to do with it, but he's 40 years old, coming off of a tough injury. I don't know how good the Jets O line is. You can attest to that, but
I was going to say I'll let you finish and then I'll jump in.
I don't even know as far as the weapons are over there. Okay, yeah, you've got Wilson, who's a fucking. We mentioned Olave as a stud. Wilson's a fucking stud. You're right. That's 2 more right there. We're up to 7, I think now. But the expectations were they were extremely high last year, and they're just as high this year for a guy coming off of a tough injury at a position where you got to protect him.
Yeah, I did think about putting him on my bust list as well, just because I don't think people are drafting him as high this year for fantasy as they were last year, given the hype. So they did revamp the line. They replaced all but 2 starters, and those 2 starters were actually relevant. They brought in, I think his name's Tyron Smith from Dallas. So
Okay.
got him, Moses.
Moses Malone.
I was going to say it, but I don't think it's Moses Malone.
Dr. J and Moses Malone.
They brought in Moses. He's on the other side at tackle. The biggest thing is their health, too. And that was overall the thing with the line last year was they struggled to protect Rodgers and Wilson and whoever else was out there.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big issue. But they still have Brees Hall. He's actually coming back fully healthy this year. He doesn't have to ramp up. I mean, he made it game 1 last year after tearing his ACL late
Crazy.
the 2022 season. So, he's going to be an elite option for Dynasty. He's arguably could be the RB1 because just volume purposes for the Jets. But they did draft a guy, I think it's Malachi Corley, kind of a gadget wide receiver / running back. Just think Debo Samuel. He's coming out of a smaller school, so highly thought of. And then they did go out and trade for Mike Williams, or sign Mike Williams this offseason as well. So some veteran guys. I mean, Tyler Conklin across the middle, having actually a good quarterback throwing it to him. But like you said, it's going to be on how well Rodgers moves. I think he's fine. He'll be there when he's needed. So if he's on the floor, we're good to go, or on the field, I should say.
Yeah, if he's on the floor, you're probably not good to go. If he's on the field, that's good.
Yeah, I hope he's not on the floor. But the only promising thing is that they went out and got Tyrod Taylor as a backup, and you've seen plenty, and you've probably seen him for fantasy purposes.
Tyrod's
too.
more than solid.
Yeah, so he'll get the job done. That defense is nasty. Last year they should have won more games if they would have. They were limiting teams to like 6 or 7 points. I mean, when we do the projections.
They should have kept Mike White, is what they should have done. They let him go to Miami to make a few extra million.
I think it was like 2 or 3 years for like 16 mil.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was like nothing. I mean, they should have resigned him.
yeah, I mean, I don't think he was very good near the end of it anyway when we did have him, and he wasn't clutch at all. There
Would
was
you rather
games that
had him last year or Zach Wilson?
I picked neither. No, probably Mike White would have been better. Actually, I'm going to take option C, Joe Flacco. We make the playoffs, probably make the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Let's be honest.
Joe Joe Flacco, huh? Oh
Hey,
man.
he led that Cleveland Browns team to the playoffs and a playoff win, I'm pretty sure.
That is true. And Cleveland had great defense just like you guys. So, I mean,
Yep.
that was really the thing for you guys. Once Rodgers went down, you just didn't have an even a decent option right there at
No.
quarterback. But yeah, you're right. With Tyrod, if anything happens, God forbid, you guys should be solid.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our sleepers breakout and bust. You'll hear more of it for other positions on the pod. Dan, obviously will be with us for those. Might get some Richie four bags in there for some of these as well. Give me a lot of offseason NFL talk too, just because All-Star break coming up for baseball. Not much to touch on for the Sox and Cubs, but like I just said, All-Star game coming up. How about we talk about some starters here?
Let's do it to it. Let's do it. Do it.
I'm glad that you're not a professional singer. I have to say that.
I'm getting better with the pods, though. I mean, if I got to say something, I just say it. You just got to blurt it out.
You know what? I appreciate your how
And
you've
that
grown
was
up.
my thing back in the day in elementary school, right? Class clown, I used to just blurt things out, and everyone used to laugh, and it was a great time, but then you get in trouble. And the teacher comes up to you after class and says, Dan, come on now, you're doing great with the homework, but you got to find a way to just like not say everything. And that went in one ear and out the other because I was just I wasn't going to happen. I mean, I liked the laughter, the chortles, the raucous abandonment, if you will. But I digress. Let's get back to the starters here.
All right, so we'll start off with your National League. Shohei Ohtani at DH, Trey Turner shortstop, Bryce Harper first base, Teoscar Hernandez right field, Christian Yelich, William Contreras at catcher, Alec Boehm third base, Ketel Marte at second, and Jurickson Profar in center field. A couple. I mean, if you're following baseball, you kind of know these names, but I feel like a lot of people, when they're looking at this list, they're saying,
Yeah.
"Wow, a lot of Phillies out here." And then Jurickson Profar, who the hell is that? Well, he was a number one overall prospect. Like, what would you say, 8 years ago, maybe?
Could be even more than that. I mean, he was
Yeah,
supposed to be one of the big guys, I think, either with Texas or Oakland, one of those teams.
it was Oakland. Yeah, he came up top with Oakland, and he was a trade target.
And that's what Oakland does, right? They draft these guys. They have no money, so they have to let them go after a few years. And Profar didn't become this guy until the last year or two. I mean, this is his best year he's had, but he's been better because he's had more playing time and whatever the last couple of years. His numbers have gotten better. But this year, I think he's still hitting over 300 or something. I mean, he's had a crazy good year for San Diego. And if the Padres didn't have him this year,
They'd be horrible. He's
they
batting
would, yeah.
314. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that came out of nowhere. And again, he's been better the last few years. But I think when you look at this National League team, you see a couple guys on there that are like, okay, we knew Ohtani, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper. Okay, we get that. But then you start looking at, like you said, Profar and Teoscar Hernandez, who's had a really good year for the Dodgers. And he's a great player. But you look at some of these guys and you say, those guys are probably, in most years, either not making the team or they'd be on reserve. So for them to be starters, hey, great for them. They've had great years. Ketel Marte doesn't get enough play. He's a stud. I mean, if it's
It's the West
possible,
Coast.
he's probably more of an underrated player in our league still.
Yeah.
West Coast. But, I mean, he's a stud. Alec Boehm, this is probably his first year starting. I mean, I think he's leading the National League in RBIs. He's been freaking great this year. And I think we've mentioned it. I mean, Christian Yelich, good for him. He's healthy again. He's having a great year. But William Contreras, he has, I mean, I don't know if it's quietly, but last year and now really this year, man, he has become one of the top catching options. I mean, everybody talks about Adley Rutschman as they should. I think he is probably the catcher of the next decade. But William Contreras has, I mean, he's going to be right there with him. He is freaking good.
He kind of came out of nowhere too, which is good to see. Because he was a top prospect with Atlanta and kind of ran into a log jam where they just didn't want to pay him. and he ended up doing really well. So, good for him. He's tearing it up. And as you mentioned, Teoscar Hernandez, kind of got revitalized. I mean, last year, I think he had like 26 home runs. He's already at 19. And then you mentioned Alec Boehm, who is actually fourth in RBIs right now, but he's got 70 of them.
I mean,
And he's
that's
batting
nuts.
296 for a third baseman that could fill in at first. Another guy that was highly touted came out of nowhere. And I do have to correct myself. Profar came out of Texas.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I know he's played for both, and he was,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, great for those guys. But yeah, when you look at that roster, you say, okay, Otani, Turner, Harper, sure. There's a couple of surprises on that list, but you know what? They're rightfully earned. They've had great years,
Yeah, a couple injuries too. Obviously, Tatis is out, so we'll see
right?
what happens. But overall, good for a lot of these guys on the list. And then we'll go jump into the American League real quick. And we have at second base Jose Altuve, Juan Soto in right, Aaron Judge in center, Jordan Alvarez at DH, Gunnar Henderson at shortstop, Jose Ramirez at third, Vladdy Jr. at first, Adley Rutschman at catcher, and then Stephen Kwan. Obviously, as you could read on the screen, but if you're listening, I'll tell you anyway. Kwan is just tearing it up this year. He's batting 365, in just a really underrated player for the Guardians. And then his counterpart, we've talked about him at nauseum, is Jose Ramirez, underrated for what he does year in and year out. You have two massive. The middle of this lineup is crazy with Juan
It's
Soto,
disgusting,
Judge, and Alvarez.
Alvarez.
Good luck. Good
Yeah,
luck. That's home
yeah.
runs all over the place. And then one of my favorite players is Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles, and then Adley Rutschman, also from the Orioles. Henderson's just having a huge
Yeah.
year too, which is good to see that we're finally getting this like new wave of young players taking that step forward. This year he's batting 292 with 27 home runs. I'm pretty sure he might be leading baseball in home runs. No,
Judge
Judge
might
has
be,
got
yeah.
22, and then Otani's got 28. But still, to be in the conversation with those two,
Oh, I mean, it's
say less.
unfucking believable. I'm going to say it again. I mean, it's unfucking believable. It's two more.
9. Wow, this might be a podcast high for
It's
today.
been an expletive podcast, but
Very.
um, I think when you contrast the NL and the AL, especially with some of the years these guys are having in the AL, I think you start to say, okay, the AL is favored, at least with the starters. And the
Yeah.
NL, again, the NL lineup, those guys are all great. They're all stars, and they're all having great years. Altuve, just to start off the top, I mean, the guy is a first ballot future Hall of Famer. You can say what you want about the trash can scandal or whatever, but he's got multiple rings, and he's going to go down as one of the greatest second basemen that's ever played the game.
Yep.
Then you go to Juan Soto. And I was thinking about this earlier today. A couple of years ago, when people were talking about Acuna and Soto, who would you rather have for the next 10, 15, 20 years? And a lot of people were torn, especially, I felt like we were getting more Acuna answers because Acuna is probably more the more well-rounded player. He can run more. He's better in the outfield. Soto, though, at the plate is just unbelievable. He doesn't strike out. He will take 100, 150 walks a year, and he's still going to hit 300 or more. He's going to put up 30 or 100. He could put up 45 and 130. The guy is unbelievable. And the reason I bring up those two is now you kind of have another debate with Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr. And we talked about those two a few weeks ago. Bobby Witt Jr., I mean, couldn't have done much more than he's done to get the starting nod. I mean, Gunnar got the nod, and I think he probably should have. But Bobby Witt, I mean, if Gunnar got hurt for a week, you're looking at Bobby Witt probably being the starter. It's that close. How good those two have been. What can you say about Judge and Alvarez? Alvarez got hot a couple weeks ago and has propelled Houston right back into the race in the West. So now Seattle's got to worry about, that lead has shrunk. I haven't looked the last few days. It was down to like 4 games about a week ago, and Houston's been hot. So
Right.
Judge, what can you say about him? He's having another historic season. He could have a year this year that was better than last year when he had that historic 60 something homer year, whatever.
Right.
He's that good. Um, Jose Ramirez. We talked about him a couple weeks ago ad nauseum, like you said. There isn't one thing he can't do. He's absolutely he's unbelievable. Vladdy Guerrero gets on there. I'd have to look at his numbers. I don't know if they're that
He's
great,
batting
but
like 290. He's batting 295, 13 home runs, but he's been that's kind of like if anyone else was actually relevant for
yeah,
first base in the American League, it might have
right.
been closer. Not taking anything away from Vlad Jr., but we're going to be honest about it. He's having a decent year, but it's not one of his best. Like we'll
It's
say
not what
that.
we're accustomed to. We the expectations on him are a lot higher, especially from that big year he had a couple years ago. Um,
Yeah, never really bounced back after that 2021 season. He's had decent ones, but
yeah,
his average went down to more of the 270 range, so he's batting like a career 281. It's funny that we're saying that, but it's because he had almost 50 home runs that year, so
and that's the type of air you're going to be, talked about in. When you have a year like that, people are going to expect you to have more years like that, and that's why when you see Judge doing this again, you're just like, Jesus Christ, this guy is. I mean, if he does this for another couple of years, you talk about people when they get to the Hall of Fame, right? You hit 30 homers a year for you know 10 years, you're still only at 300. This guy is expediting this whole. Oh yeah, 30 homers a year. He's trying to double that and hit 60 a year for a couple of years, and he's before you know it, he's going to be at 500 like that. I mean, he
I
just
know.
needs to stay healthy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's been his problem is staying healthy. But yeah, he's let's see here, he's at 289 for home runs, so
Man,
he's already pushing for 300. And what sucks too is the fact that he just has all those injuries, so he's playing less games than majority. But every time you see a Yankees highlight, it's either Juan Soto's hitting a home run or it's Judge. So
and then just to round out the last two, Rutschman. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He's
same.
just awesome. To do what he's doing behind the plate is just freaking on. It's just awesome. And then Stephen Kwan, man, you want to talk about a small little guy who hits for a super high average, and now I
Yeah,
think he's slugging over 500 this year. He's added some slug to his game where it's like, okay, you figured he was just a guy who didn't strike out a lot, put the ball in play a ton, and I think you said he's hitting like 350 or 360. I mean, this guy,
yeah,
if he hits enough homers, unfortunately, he's not going to win the MVP because you have Aaron Judge in that league. But he's at least going to be in the conversation. He could be in the top three if he hits enough homers and if his average stays at 350, 360. He's almost going to have to be in the conversation. Like I said, not going to win it with Judge because he's going to hit 60 if he stays healthy. The guy could hit 70 if he stays healthy. Judge's first month, he was ice cold. And he's done this the last 2 months. He's hit 20 to 30 homers in like a month. I mean, it's or 2 months. It's what he's doing is on. We haven't seen stuff like this. It's unbelievable. But Quan, man, I mean, he's what he's doing with Ramirez, and then you got Naylor. I mean, that's been
yeah.
Cleveland's hiccup the last couple of years is they don't have any offense. Now you've
Now
got
they
a
do.
couple guys who are really hitting, and now you see why Cleveland's as good as they are.
Yep, absolutely. Well said. And then the reserves and pitching is getting announced tonight, I think after 5. Obviously, for our White Sox, or my White Sox, I should say, is Garrett Crochet will probably be the guy. They purposely push back his start. They're starting to limit his innings, but they push back his start. So, when he does
Mm,
get the call, he could actually pitch in it, which is good. And then for the Cubs, I don't know who will make it for you guys.
I couldn't tell you either, and I don't even want to try to guess. It's going to probably be Shota, but man,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I kind of forgot about him. I was thinking maybe you could do Suzuki, but that would even be pushing it.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, because he missed at least a month or
Shota,
a
no,
little.
he completely spaced on that one, or I spaced on that one. But yeah, that would be so. We'll get our one. We'll get our one
Yeah,
each, and
yeah,
not like I'll watch it because it doesn't matter for anything. That'll be a debate for another day. But I was a strong component for having the All Star game mean something. I liked when you had the home field
yeah.
advantage.
That was my thing too, 100%. I mean, you because that adds the competitive. Then now you got
Yeah,
the guys out there really actually wanting to win.
right. Not like the NBA All Star game, which all it is shooting threes and lollygagging. NFL one got changed like 7 times. Now they do flag football, and
I can't
then
watch the NFL.
pitching.
That's the one, the Pro Bowl. I cannot watch that.
You will. You're in the same group as me with that one, and just like pretty much all the other All Star games except for baseball suck. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So we'll see. See what happens. See what teams bounce back over this All Star break too coming up.
Let's go north side.
All right, jumping in here. Some Bulls news because we have to talk about a little bit of NBA here. Bulls did do a sign and trade with the Kings. That it was a 3-team trade, and they ended up acquiring Chris Duarte and 2 second-round picks for DeMar DeRozan. And all I can say is that good for him. Glad he's going back to the West Coast. I think that's his home. And way to get out of Chicago. I appreciate what you did for when you were here. But other than that, best of luck.
Yeah, big DeRozan fan after the last couple of years. Huge fan of him. He's a great player. I'm assuming he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. He's done a lot. And good for him that he gets to go play on a much better team. The Bulls are such a big brand, but unfortunately, we're just so fucking bad. And that's number 10, by the way. I don't know if we've had a 10 expletive pod, but we're breaking all the rules today.
Yeah.
We're so bad. I might even have to buy a sports package to watch some Sacramento Kings games next year because we'll see. I was reading up a little bit on that. I think the Kings still need someone. They need more help on defense, but. I like De'Aaron Fox. He's become.
So
he's so good. I like Sabonis. I like Malik Monk. I like some of the other players they have around him. And now having DeRozan to be a true number 2 option.
Close out. He'll be the closeout option because he's the king of the fourth.
100%. So now you got those two to go. And Sabonis, to me, has his games where he's more of a 2 and he has his games where he's more of a 3 scorer. So for him to be more in that number 3 kind of role, I think will help him. I like him as a big man down low. We'll see if the Kings do more to help them defensively. But, the Bulls suck. We got rid of our best guy, and we're still trying to move Levine, but nobody wants him because we're paying him, an arm and a leg every year now. So we'll see if we move him. But
Yeah, Harrison Barnes was included in that deal too. He went to San Antonio, which San Antonio's kind of had a quietly good offseason too.
They're going to be halfway decent this year.
Yeah, Wemby will go off and really
as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy, and then he's got Chris Paul, kind of being the leader for whatever he can actually be.
Yeah,
and then Harrison Barnes as well. So. Should be decent. Like we said, Bulls suck, so it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. But on the other side of the Madhouse on Madison, the Hawks actually had pretty big free agent signings here. They brought back an old friend from the 2015 team, and he was on there a little bit before, but Teuvo Teravainen returns to the Blackhawks on a 3-year deal. He was a former first-round pick in 2012. He played 115 games with us, and like I said, he won the Cup in 2015. Happy to have him back. I think he fits perfectly, with where the Hawks are building. Adds in a little veteran leadership now, so that's good. So happy to have him back. Brought in Tyler Bertuzzi. He's kind of played for almost every other original 6 team. My noteworthy thought of him was he was on the Red Wings for quite a while, and he was always just a thorn in our side. So kind of good to have him, added some top 6 talent to, play with Bedard, and hopefully Taylor Hall is healthy next year.
Taylor Hall? That's his name?
Well, the guy we brought in is Tyler Bertuzzi.
No, but you mentioned Taylor Hall.
Yes, Taylor Hall.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm sure Taylor's watching. Shout out to Taylor. Not your Taylor Hall. I've got a Taylor Hall on my softball games. He's on both leagues, my Monday and my Thursday night league. So Taylor, I'm sure you're watching. I I'm not a big Blackhawks guy, but apparently there's a guy on the Blackhawks and his name is Taylor Hall. So what up, T? T Hall. T Money.
Oh, jeez. All right, jumping back in. Yeah, so he's a veteran. He's played over 400 games, coming off a career high 80 games played, and then he scored 21 goals last year. Like I said, playing with Bedard, that helps. We're entering veteran leadership. Then just kind of a slew of different bottom six guys we added. We added Pat Maroon, who played on some cup winning teams. He was with St. Louis, and he's been around the league. He's 36. He is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. Once again, bringing veterans. Craig Smith, don't know a whole lot about him. They only signed him to a 1-year deal as well. But once again, veteran leadership. He's played over 928 games. So he's been around it. And then we re-signed Joey Anderson, who had a cup of coffee with us last year. So we brought those guys in. Alec Martinez on defense. Signed him to a 1-year deal. If you're a Hawks fan, he did score the game-winning goal in 2014 with the Los Angeles Kings against our Hawks, kind of to sink our – would have been a three-peat. We would have won all three cups from 2013, 2014, and 2015, but he did win 2 cups with the LA, and then he also 3 cups. He won in Vegas in 2023. So once again, as you see the theme here, they're bringing in veteran leadership.
Yeah.
So can't go wrong with that. And then last but not least, they signed a backup goalie. Should help. His last name is Brochut. First name Laurent. This is gonna be a guy who's looked good when he's out there. Doesn't play a whole lot, but once again, he played on a good team with Vegas. So veteran leadership there. And last but not least on defense, TJ Brody, another guy that's played like 900 games. So overall theme, though, for the Hawks, they went from one of the youngest teams last year, didn't have a whole lot of talent. Basically, if there were any injuries, we were rushing prospects up. This year is going to be the complete opposite. We went from one of the youngest teams to one of the oldest. So what you might be thinking, what are we going to do? Are we going to, is that going to become a problem when prospects come up? Absolutely not. What they're going to do is do a lot of plug and play, keep the veterans there, keep it going, let the prospects kind of play in, I call it AAA, but, playing in Rockford, and they'll, get some time just to really develop.
There you go. Hey, you know what? Let's start another dynasty, huh, Hawks? Let's do another 3 and 7 years or whatever it was.
Yeah, I would love that. So, yeah. Any closing the hot dog contest.
Hot dog contest.
Nathan's hot dog without Joey Chestnut.
First time. I really had to write this down here. So Joey Chestnut, couple facts on him. Just a couple things. New champion since 2015. We are in 2024. That means that Mr. Joey Chestnut, you've been doing a lot of winning. How much winning? Well, I'll tell you. Chestnut has won 16 of the past 17 contests. Holds the record also with 72 hot dogs and buns, not just wieners. He's sucking down the buns too. And this was in 2021. So let me just go ahead and say, I'm happy that we have a new champion. Joey wanted to do his thing with the plant-based hot dog, some vegan kind of thing. He got his bag, sure. But this is America. This is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And he wanted to change that. And Nathan said, you know what? Our name on the banner, Nathan's, is bigger than your name, Joey Chestnut. Sorry, Joey, but you know what? You can go slurp down your 72 hot dog and buns somewhere else, okay? We got a new champ. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think it's an Italian. So, Patrick Bertoletti. How about this?
There you go.
58 hot dogs and buns. This is where, I'm going to get into that in a second. How about this, though? If you're a betting man, because you can bet on this, because this is America.
You bet on everything.
I'm calling him Berto. Plus 800 odds.
Oh.
So I'm just saying, next year I'm betting on the hot dog eating con. That's all I'm saying. I should have bet on this guy. This is crazy. He's also, I have this in my notes, champion, the world's number 9 eater. They rank eaters, Okay,
Oh, you
if you
didn't know
didn't
that?
know that, I
Oh
did
yeah.
not know that people were ranked in eating. I thought I was a good eater. Apparently, I'm not. I mean, I'm not even ranked. I'm not even anywhere near the rankings for that. And let me tell you something. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I had an appetite that could shock an elephant. All right, it was crazy. I could put down a meal or two and still be like, waiter, let's get something else on the menu. Can't do that anymore. I got to have a certain. It's got to be. It's everything's got to align. Like the sun, the moon, Saturn's got to come into. Everything
Gotta
has to
use your
align.
crystals.
Yes, yeah, I'm a big crystal guy. But how about this? Halfway halfway through the contest, James Webb was leading with 35 dogs and buns. Our buddy Berto with 33. So he was two dogs and buns behind James Webb. I'm going to run through the dogs and buns because this is where I had a few chuckles this morning. So Bertolelli wins at 58. Next guy had 53. Esper was his name. Webb was the leader, finished third with 52. This is good. This guy's last name I think is Weary. 51.75 hot dogs and buns. What are we doing here? I didn't see it. I haven't watched how they
No.
calculate all this. You're telling me that when the clock struck midnight, this guy still was shoveling in a quarter of a dog and a bun, and they said, that's it? You're done? Okay. 51.75. So when he goes home tonight, or a couple nights ago, right, he looks and sees that he was fourth place by a quarter of a dog and a bun. He almost tied Webb at 52 for third place. So that's got to be tough, right? Going home. That's a tough plane ride going back home. And let's face it, these guys, I don't know if they're making a lot of money. So that's a real tough plane ride. And then with all those hot dogs and buns in your belly, that's a real tough plane ride. How many trips to the loo are you taking, huh?
I mean, it's not a guy you want to be sitting next to.
No, 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 no. I can only imagine the smell. Um, you know what? Just some of the numbers here, though, that people finished with. Fifth place was Yamamoto with 46, 43, 38.5. This is one, though, that I want to get to the women's, right? Looking
Oh
at the
yeah.
women. Now, this is where it gets really good. Pseudo 51. She ate
Yeah. She
51
killed it.
dogs. The second place was Ibahara. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, at 37. This wasn't even close. This was a landslide victory.
Yeah.
51 to 37. I mean, come on now. I mean, this pseudo chick, Sudoku, whatever you want to call her, she's good. Uh, then you've got in third place Lesko with 23 and a half. I mean, top three or four, it's really the top three, just in a class of their own. And it was each third, not even close. Then you start getting down to fourth, 14 and a half. You come down to seventh with Young, 8.75. I mean, and this is my favorite. Brown finished ninth for the women, 7.4. 7.4 hot dogs and buns. How are
That's
we
impressive.
figuring this out? Well,
They
yeah,
have people sitting in front of them watching it, and
yeah, but I don't think you're understanding this, right? I,
oh
I,
yeah,
I think of
look
myself as a
forward.
funny person, right? How do are they pulling out a measure, like a ruler, and saying, okay, you ate 6/10 of the dog, or 4/10 of the dog, so it's 7.4.
Yeah,
Is that what
I
they're
mean, if
doing?
you, yeah, I think so. I mean, when you're watching, I think they must get that tedious with it. But I mean, that's insane to me now that you're kind of bringing it.
7.4, 7.4 in 10 minutes. Now, I'll be honest with you. Compared to 51, I mean, she got her ass spanked. That's 11, by the way. But, I mean, tell me that down real quick. You got to be kidding me here with 7.4? I mean, I don't know how we're going to calculate or measure that. I have got to watch this next year. I wasn't able to watch it this year. I'll record it if I have to. But 7.4? I mean, I mean,
7.4.
I don't know. I don't even know. Great American tradition, though. And another side note, Joey, you want to jump back in next year, you can. But we're not doing this vegan hot dog crap. All right, we're sucking down, we're slurping up real American wieners on American buns. That's what the contest is about. And I don't want to hear any more of this, fake hot dog BS.
Well said. Well said.
America.
I don't even have anything else to say. I think we have to end on that note because that was well done. Um,
America.
Yep, we'll close out there. Hot dogs in America.